This is Jed Distler, and welcome to The Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. Have you subscribed to our podcast yet? Well, you really should. You can do so through my Substack page by clicking on the link in the episode description. And paid subscribers also get bonuses, such as Piano Maven Zoom meetings, where we will listen to recordings together, share listening experiences, and we'll have some special guests also. So please consider a paid subscription to help us reach out further into the piano community and to keep this podcast in production. We continue our discussion of all 32 Beethoven piano sonatas in this kind of mini-series, where I recommend 2 recordings for each sonata, 1 historic or archival recording, and 1 modern recording from the stereo and digital eras. And throughout this mini-series, my challenge has been not to repeat a pianist, meaning that we have 32 numbered sonatas and 64 pianists. The 2 little sonatas that comprise Opus 49 are really sonatinas containing 2 movements each. Although they were first published in 1805, they actually date from around 10 years earlier. And they were presented to a publisher by Beethoven's brother Caspar against the composer's wishes, I might add. So technically, they do not belong to the canon of Beethoven's 32 sonatas. Yet, because they bear the Opus 49 opus number, they've traditionally been considered sonatas numbers 19 and 20. And of course, they are much easier to play than most of Beethoven's other sonatas. We really don't need to spend tons of time on them. But for the historic recording of Opus 49 number 1, I'll nominate an early CBC broadcast by the young Glenn Gould, mainly because not only does he play it really well, but also because he did not record this sonata anywhere else. And for the modern recommendation, there's a very stylish and elegant recording by Frédéric François Guy that comes from his complete Beethoven cycle on the Zigzag Territories label. His earlier studio recording on the Naive label for this sonata is okay, but it's not as good as the one on Zigzag Territories. My main historic or archival choice for Opus 49 number 2 normally would be Arthur Schnabel, because nobody played it as well as him. But we already talked about Arthur Schnabel for Opus 2 number 1, and we can't repeat a pianist, right? So I had to search far and wide, and I went into my collection and I found an old LP on the Educo label, or do you pronounce it Educo? Educo? This was a label that existed for, I guess, didactic purposes, and the pianist Lily Krauss made several LPs for this label, and she was an Arthur Schnabel pupil. And her performance on this label of Opus 49 number 2 is similar to Schnabel in many ways. You have the same angular qualities and the same disarming kind of simplicity. But there's never been a digital transfer of this recording, so this is the one exception to my ground rule that all of the recordings that I'm discussing in this mini-series must have had availability on CD or via digital download or through public domain websites like IMSLP. That said, if you are a member of a news group where people post out-of-print recordings, you might be able to find this recording of Opus 49 number 2 with Lily Krauss. My modern choice for a recording is that of Mari Kodama on the Pentatone label. That's part of her complete Beethoven sonata cycle. I have often found her interpretations of Beethoven to be totally impeccable from a technical point of view, yet sometimes anonymous or impersonal, but there are many exceptions, of course, in the cycle, and I think her version of Opus 49 number 2 is as good as the best ones out there. To be honest, I doubt that any piano mavens out there will honestly get excited about the two Opus 49 sonatas or will particularly care about my recommendations, aside from just being curious about what I've picked. But we do have two of Beethoven's greatest hits coming up, two named sonatas, the Waldstein and the Appassionata. And I'm going to have a lot to say about these works, and I think you may find my recommendations interesting, or perhaps even surprising in one case. This is Jed Disler, and you've been listening to The Piano Maven, your friendly podcast guide to piano recordings. I look forward to being with you next time. Take good care.